Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Quran for the Infidel, where I get lessons from Bogi. And I send out always invitations for other Arabic speakers who were raised in Islam and could therefore explain what the Islamic interpretations of these surahs are. But despite all the invitations going out, I still don't have any people joining in, even when strangely people ask me, send me emails saying that they want to be part of this, and I add them to the list, and yet still it's just me and Bogey. Is 5 o'clock GMT or Greenwich time the best time to do this? I would have thought that it was on a Sunday, and I was pretty sure that everybody would be home today.
No, they went out.
Yeah, they're all on vacation somewhere. They're all in a restaurant. No, I don't.
Probably in a cruise ship somewhere.
Yeah, that's what it is. Everybody's in a cruise. So, Bogey, what do you have for me today on Surah 20? I know that you made some notes about this surah.
Yes, this is a ton of fun kind of surah. It's right smack in the middle of nowhere. It says a lot of things, and it has an interesting story embedded right in the middle of it. First thing first, just let this get out of the way. It has two abrogated verses, 130 and 135, and both of them the bad kind of abrogation. Don't wait for them, just get after them right there. But I just wanted to get this out of the way so that we only get back to it when it happens, and it's quite at the end of the chapter. The first note is 20, Surah 20, verse 1. The old stuff about the two-letter word that's in the beginning of the surah. This is a surname.
Ta-Haa is a surname.
Yeah, just check Facebook, type in Ta-Haa, and there are hundreds of people with the first name Ta-Haa. And if you search for last name, they are having hundreds of people with the last name Ta-Haa.
But I didn't see any. I mean, I didn't do an extensive search, but I didn't see any tafsir or any reference.
No,
to
and I'm surprised that they didn't say, "Hey, this is a first name." But it does seem like I know people who call Ta-Haa.
Okay.
And I was surprised that the tafsir didn't add any of that notion to it. Now, there is a chance that they are called Ta-Haa because of this surah, right? And then this is a name because this surah starts with Ta-Haa.
But the description that Abdel Halim gives, and this was just the lamest one. I mean, I understand that some surahs start with some unintelligible assemblage of letters for whatever reason.
Yes.
There's 3 or 4 surahs to begin this way that I know of so far.
Yeah, this doesn't seem the case.
In this case, and Abdel Halim is citing Razi. I can't remember who Razi is, but some other expert on these, and they both say that in this instance that it's a reference to some other word, oh man, in a Yemeni dialect. Why would the Quran?
Why go there? Just dig it up on Facebook, and there's a lot of Ta-Haa people out there. They're like, it's the first name, everybody uses it. This is a proper name. It's a noun.
So I don't understand where they come up with that kind of a.
Neither did I, and I was looking at it like, why? I mean, I can see that people get taken by the mysterious letters in the beginning of the chapters here. This doesn't seem to be the case at all. This is a proper name, and people are naming their children that way.
Okay, what do you got next?
Next is 2011, 2012.
2011, 2012, jumping there. I mean, and on that first point, I shouldn't go back to that first point, but just it reminds me of conspiratorial thinking, where you start drawing lines of connections to all these different things that aren't really connected at all. You just imagining patterns. That's what I think this reference to Yemeni is about. So in 2012, it says, "I am your Lord. Take off your shoes. You are in the sacred valley of Tuwa." Okay.
Notice the Bible has had two of the not more nerfings. Remember the Nicene Council, and there was another nerfing in recent years, and even the King James lost 7 or 8 books at a certain point in time. Maybe this valley is a victim of one of these nerfings that the Bible had along the years, and it was mentioned before, and now it's no longer found in anything.
So this Valley of
Tua.
Ta-Haa? Okay. I have
Yeah,
no idea what- Does
neither
anybody
do I.
know what this is referring to?
Neither do I. It's a valley. Whatever. It's sacred place, and you're supposed to take your shoes off when you're there. Now, nobody's going to take their shoes off because nobody told where the hell it is.
Okay.
So,
So this is what I like about God's message.
very precise, very
Yeah.
exquisite, right there. Nobody knows where it is. But it's a sacred valley. So there are a few sacred valleys that we know of, and one of them is Jahannam, right behind Jerusalem, the burning pit.
I wonder why you have to take your shoes off.
Because you have to take your shoes off in sacred places like mosques.
Well, I
and
can
sacred
understand a mosque, some place where they have to sweep the marble floors, but it's not like you're going to get the valley dirty.
No, it's a sign of respect. Actually, just Japanese culture has this. If you enter somebody's house, a Japanese house, you put your shoes outside the house and walk in without them. So it's not unusual.
I guess there's
Unheard
no
of.
place in the Arabian desert that has stickers.
No. No, it's just, well, I found it also very interesting that the Quran explicitly says, no, you have to put your shoes, and the word nalaik is a two piece, so you have to put both of your shoes off specifically. So there you go. Single-legged people gonna have to interpret this for themselves.
Okay.
11, 12, and 2015 uses the same word as 2020, the word Ta-Haa.
We're in 2020. Am I looking at 2020 now?
2015.
Okay.
So
And
when
the hour is coming, though I choose to keep it hidden. The hour is coming, though I choose to keep it hidden, for each soul to be rewarded for its labor.
So the time of the hour, God chooses to keep hidden, right? Because He wants to have the element of surprise, right?
Yeah.
But, right. I mean, why would an end of days be worth anything if it wasn't a surprise? I mean, even in Christianity, it comes, it gets you like a thief at night, right? That's the expression. That's the surprise. That's the epitome of the element of surprise. It gets you when you're not looking for it, right? To keep your senses heightened and your fear constant. And
it's really because
it's the fear element.
Yeah, we know that we can't go past the expiration date.
Right. We will expire on the expiration date. So the word I'm trying to hang a bit of information on is Ta-Haa, the last word in this verse, and it's interesting because it uses it the way it does, and then later on it uses it to describe how the snake moves in the Moses story, without giving too much away. The sai is whatever is doing. Is the action of doing. So a farmer plows the land and plants the seeds and waters them and then collects the crops and all that. That's a say. So that's the farmer's say. That's what the farmer does, right? What the snake does, a slither, it hisses and it bites and it does other things. And that's what the snake does. What you do, what you Ta-Haa in your life is what you did in your life. So the say itself is kind of like whatever you're describing is doing normally. It's not moving fast as the translation says. But I'm using the double reference in two different verses with the same word meaning different things. And actually, it's a more generic word than what the translation does. And it means that what a programmer does is the say of the programmer. Okay?
Okay.
So that would be 15 and 20, 27, 28.
27, 28. All right. So here, untie my tongue so that I may understand so that they may understand my words.
Again, so it seems that Moses had a speech impediment. Again, for the fun of it, God picks the guy who can't speak to convey his messages. Bingo! And he promises him to fix it, and then he does it because he says he is asking God in 27 to untie his tongue. And in 28 explains to God why, so that they can understand what I say. And he doesn't do it. He has Aaron to elucidate the people what Moses wants to say, because Moses cannot make sense. People do not understand Moses. Right? So you become a prophet of God and you just can't convey the message. You pick somebody else to.
But then also you're going to have to write a book when you can't write.
Right.
Okay.
Same idea. So next one, 20, 38, 39.
38, 39. All right.
Yay.
We inspired your mother, saying, put your child into the chest, then place him into the river. Let the river wash him to its bank, and he will be taken in by an enemy of mine and his. I showered you.
This is the advice God gave to Moses' mother. What a horrible advice.
Could God have just... God doesn't ever do anything.
But he could have just given him to some nice people next door. No, yeah. I will. You put him in the floating thing, and then throw him in the river, and I will deliver him to his enemy. Like, of all the options that you could have done, there are thousands, if not million, people at that time at the River Nile who are all nice people. They're farmers, they're merchants, they're scientists, they're engineers, they bake beer. All the nice people are living there. You're going to deliver it to the Pharaoh's house because he's his enemy.
Because this is really taken from the story of Sargon, and we're going to use this as a tool to somehow integrate this this Hebrew character into the actual the house of the ruler, so that they are very familiar with each other. Because it's not going to be a good story if they don't somehow already know each other, are very familiar with each other. So we can take a number of other tropes from other stories and integrate them all into one. So now we have an epic Cecil B. DeMille tale.
Yeah, but this is like, his mother is already in despair, right? She's going to throw this kid into the water, hoping that he will survive because somebody's going for firstborns and they want to kill them. Right, so she's going like, well, I can't lose my child that way. And then God tells her, no, I'm going to deliver him to his enemy. The same enemy that's trying to kill him right now.
Well, let me ask this other question then, because I'm confused. So somebody has this prophecy. I mean, the reason that all these other kids are being killed is because somebody prophesied correctly that there was going to be this person who was going to rise and overthrow them. And so the correct prophecy came. Now, if the prophecy is correct, that means that somebody who is an enemy
of God, that guy knows shit.
So how can there be somebody who is an enemy of God who also knows how to give prophecy.
Well, apparently this God works in mysterious ways, maybe. But
All right.
this, like, I just hung up on the advice. Why are you putting more despair on the poor woman?
Yeah.
Right? Why make it worse? Just tell her he will be fine, and that's okay. Lie to people, make them happy. Let her get rid of the child that way to save his life and not worry about where he's going to end. But no, you told her. You made sure she suffers the pain and the agony of knowing where her child is going. Okay,
And
next one.
being deprived of the child and all of that.
And being, and you know, you don't want
you
to.
told somebody that this was going to happen, so that you would start the dominoes falling, so that it would be these people that would go out and kill all these babies. So now God is responsible for killing all of these other babies because he gave the prophecy to somebody so that they would go out and kill a bunch of babies. And then he's now responsible for depriving this one woman of her child so that he can put that child in the enemy's house, which he absolutely did not need to do, unless he's going to harden Pharaoh's heart, because he could have fixed this all along. And how can we have free will if he hardens people's hearts so that he can play both sides of the chessboard?
He's already playing both sides of the chessboard. This is terrible advice. Anyways, 2047.
Finding 47. Go and tell him, we are your Lord's messengers. So send the children of Israel with us and do not oppress them. We have brought you a sign from your Lord. Peace be upon whoever follows the right guidance.
Islam invented teleconferencing? I'm sorry. I mean, eventually you're going to have it from an apologist.
I never understood. Well, how do we know which is the right guidance?
Well,
all these different religions, everybody claiming to be the absolute truth. How do we know?
And look at what he said. Just the last verse that we talked about. He's telling the mother of the child that he's going to be in the worst possible place once she let go of him.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of a monster is that?
Yeah.
I mean, ignorance is bliss, but he denies her that bliss. He just said, no, I'm going to take him straight to the house of Pharaoh, who's sending his soldiers on the other door, trying to knock it down and take your child and kill it. But I'm going to take him to his house. 53 is the next.
And this is something you actually caught a very interesting part where it actually describes the earth as flat. The word that it uses here is mat, which is the cradle, which is a bed, which is flat, because try sleeping in a not flat bed. It's not going to be good.
So this is where in the translation that I got, it says, we're talking about 53, right?
Yes.
So it was he who spread out the earth for you and traced roots in it. He sent down water from the sky. With that water, we bring forth every kind of plant.
Yeah. And note, it's just the water. There's nothing else. I don't know if this is a systematic. It looks like it's very systematic, but whatever. 2070. This seems to happen at pre-organized event. Let's go to 2070.
2070. All right. So it was, and the sorcerers threw themselves down in submission. We believe, they said, in the Lord of Aaron and Moses. Pharaoh. Okay, that's the next verse. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So your explanation and your translation work, I think it's missing a point whereby Moses makes a second appointment in front of Pharaoh's throne at a given time, which is the celebration time. I don't know what celebration. It's probably the summer flooding celebration where everything gets flooded and people are very happy because that means a good crop is coming up next year. We're talking Nile here. So on the celebration day before noon, that's an appointment that neither you nor Moses can miss, and then let's do the show off there with the snakes and the mage from the Pharaoh's side. So these are two events. One of them is just Moses and his closed circuit at the throne, and the other one is where the mages are in, and he throws the stick down and it eats the other mage's stick, because. So it is actually two different events, unlike the movie, which makes it into one event. I don't know why.
Okay. Well,
It just
it's only the Bible. It's not like you can't take liberties.
right. I mean, you can obviously take liberties, but this second event is like a major show in a football stadium with 20,000 people watching, and all the nominal and famous mages from everywhere come around the Pharaoh and throw their sticks down, and then Moses' stick turns into a snake and eats them all. And you got a good point. That thing has an appetite of a bulldozer. For sure. But just for the sake of accuracy, I think the Quran mentions two different occasions here. One of them with Moses and the Pharaoh, and the other one with Moses and the Pharaoh and the mages doing the snake show.
Which is all things that would actually really happen if there really was a God.
If that's what they would actually organize a big show meeting, and it's going to be a showdown, and this is the God people and this is the not God people, and then we do our things, and then God. This is a repeating theme everywhere in almost every religion. Since Cain and Abel were having a contest again about whose stuff is more pleasing to God, and one of them ended up killing the other because they didn't like the results. It's been like this. This is what you make a religion with. This is the salt and pepper of it.
Okay.
7.
It's just not like what reality is like. It would be just like not at all. I mean,
no.
And I don't mean just the reality that we have. I mean, if there was a God, if the way that this God is currently described by the serious apologists of the 21st century, it wouldn't act like that.
That's why I dismiss these serious, very complicated apologies. Look, guys in the 7th century in the middle of the desert wouldn't even understand what you're talking about. They either understood it the way they did, or they didn't understand it at all. And you can't just say that early Muslims didn't understand Islam. That would be monstrous to say. They understood it. It says what it says, and they followed it. But don't tell me all this. This study and that study and this science. They didn't have any of this stuff to understand Islam with. They didn't have these tools. They had to understand it there in Arabic in the middle of the desert in the 7th century. And those are the tools you can use today to explain it. It just wouldn't work any other way. Now you're bringing in what? Computers? Anyways, we skipped over 75 because I already made the point that this contest thing and this showdown thing and which God favors which things is always ends up in a kind of a contest. 82 is our next. How
82.
about
Yes,
2082?
2082, and no, that's 83. Or 82. Yet I am most forgiving toward those who repent, believe, do righteous deeds, and stay on the right path.
Yeah.
Again, how do we know?
How about a little bit more forgiving, dude? Like come on, forgive us.
I mean, we've got the Buddhist Eightfold Path, and then we've got the Hindu path, and there was a number of other paths, and all of them claim to be the absolute truth, and all of them claim that there are going to be terrible consequences if you don't follow the right.
Yeah.
And the right path is whichever one we're giving you right now, and there's no way to test any of this.
No.
Just believe what you're told, or we'll kill you. That's the thing, right?
So I was going like, Allah is a tremendous forgiver, the best forgiver. He also has huge a brain. The pun was intended.
Nobody forgives like I do.
Right. And that one. Nobody forgives. I'm the best forgiver ever. There. 85 is our next. Who is the Samiric?
88. Here's 85. But God said, we have tested your people in your absence. The Samiric has led them astray. The Samiric.
That's the Samiric. Who's the Samiric?
The Samiric is Aaron, who
Yeah.
God himself appointed to this task.
Yeah.
So Aaron met God.
Well, he talked to him. He Skyped him. He literally Skyped him.
So, yeah, okay.
I mean, and now he's like hating on him. He's calling him, oh, that Samaric there. He already cheated up your people and they're worshiping the calf. Now, mind you, this is the story of the first set of 10 commandments, which Moses broke because he came down from the mountain. And the word in the Quran is Ghadabana Asifa. He was angry and sorry.
I want to mention that we have a new guest.
Yes.
Under the name Marar.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm sorry for the delay.
No problem. Can we kick? I don't know how to kick up your volume, but we need to raise your volume a bit.
Give me a second here.
Okay.
You guys can continue with.
All right. Well, we're already up to verse 85.
I'll just catch up.
Okay. All right. So for us.
So in verse, he's already like calling him bad names, but then we come down from the mountain, we break the first set of the 10 commandments. Mind you, Islam doesn't have a lot of mention about the 10 commandments at all. Unless we missed it somewhere. Because now Moses comes down, there is no mention of the 10 commandments. According to the Bible, that's the very same place where Moses comes down from the mountain. He's completely surprised, although in the Quranic versions, he shouldn't be surprised because Allah already told him that your people are worshiping a golden calf. He comes down from the mountain angry and sorry at the same time. And he breaks the tablets according to the Bible. No mentions of the tablets in the Quran whatsoever. And he has a major fallout with his brother. There is mention of hair and there's mention of beards here. You know, obviously, when you have a major fallout with your brother, you pull their hair and you pull their beards. So they had a fight over this. And Aaron had to go.
Well, okay, so does the Quran differ from the Bible in that, like, same thing happened in the Bible, except, of course, that there's this 10 commandments, which obviously were not important
The
enough.
missing 10 commandments is a very big telltale here.
But you know, there was the command to kill every man and his brother, except that Aaron was Moses' brother, and Aaron was the one who built the calf and was the only one who should have been killed. But instead of being killed, we see on the next page that suddenly he's a high priest.
Right. And they had a brawl, and Aaron was thrown out of the tribe in the middle of the Sinai desert. If geography helps me in this one, right?
Well, that depends, because they
were lost for 40 years, and there's no way they were lost for 40 years. That's just baloney. Anyways, so what did they do to the calf?
I don't remember. Is that in the verse? Because I don't remember reading.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, which verse are we looking at?
We are looking. Uh, 94 is where they have the fight with the beards and the hair.
I think the story is that they have to melt the calf down and then throw it into the sea.
What will that do to the calf? Because that was my next point. The calf is made of gold, by the way.
Yeah.
Melting it down and throwing it into the sea, what will that do to it?
Well,
It no longer is a physical thing that people can worship, I guess, in their minds.
Well, it
So
turns
it's
into
like
a
symbolic.
right. So there
it
is a
no longer
big,
looks like a calf, and because it's in the sea, it can no longer buy anything for anybody either.
but it will not corrode because it's made of gold. So there's a big splotch of gold somewhere in the Red Sea, and people should go and find it.
So,
Yeah.
what sea is this that we're
Well,
talking
it's
about?
either the Red Sea or the Mediterranean. What other seas is there?
Well, that depends on where it is, because I noted that there was this one guy that was a Christian who was arguing that it was all of this was happening in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, but it's still the Red Sea. Like it's not all the way up to
One of
Mesopotamia.
the seas would be, yes.
Right. It's going to be either the Red Sea or they went too far north and it's the Mediterranean and they chucked it into the Mediterranean. But none of this would actually damage the material of the calf for any kind of a reasonable way. So whatever they did didn't hurt the calf all that much. Yes, it's not longer a calf shape, but yeah, there you go.
All right. So, Morar, introduce yourself, please. Who are you? What are you about?
Yeah. So I am from Pakistan, and I currently live in a closet. So, yeah. So it's not something that I can be very open about. That's why this is not my name. I can't show my face. I can discuss it with some people here, but it's like something that I can definitely not be open about. So you have to pick and choose who you are sharing it with and who you are talking it with, because it can get very dangerous. So I have gotten into trouble previously because of some Facebook posts and something like that. So for me, previously it was like I have gone to pilgrimage a lot of times. I've spent time in Saudi as well.
Did they let you
So,
in?
sorry.
Did they let you into the Kaaba?
Ah, yes, this was before. So it's like 5 or 6 times I'm actually believing what I'm doing, and then seventh, eighth time in that place, it's like lost on me. Like what is this? So what happened was in 2010 when I started having questions. What I started doing was that I started asking people these questions, and they would tell me, do this, do that, go to this, read that. How would you say like something came out of nothing, right? So this is the go-to sort of an answer when you start questioning religion, right? So then what happened was that I used to take in these questions, and I used to sort of reflect on those questions, and it sort of made me it kept taking me away and away. The more questions that they were asking, the line of questioning that was actually there to bring me back into the fold was actually making me, because at that time I was actually starting to research more and more, and I started to read on stuff. And the more you read, actually that is the beauty of this, or probably all of Abrahamic religions, that the more you read into it, the more bullshit you think it is.
Yeah, that's not a rare opinion among people who left Islam, is that the more you go in it, the more likely you're going to snap right out of it.
Yeah.
And does have
so
this.
Yeah, you were saying, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, continue, Morar.
Yeah, so it's something like this, that what we do is basically what the people of faith do is that they say, oh, you have to go to the scholar, because the scholar will be the one giving you the answers, and it's only the scholars that are able to understand this. And when all the scholars are fighting amongst themselves and there is no understanding at all, you sort of start saying, okay, which scholar, right? So it's sort of if someone looks into it from a clear perspective and someone is willing to go either way, I think most of the people will choose that this is actually bullshit. So but even in what we see in our country is that most people have chosen this subset of the whole religion, right? So it's not the whole thing that the people believe in. So people have this subset of the religion that they believe in. There are some core beliefs, or there are some things that are important to people, and the rest of it doesn't matter. So, and when you start discussing the rest of it with them, they would say that no, this is not the religion, right? But then you have the proof that this is the religion, right?
Yeah, and the problem with that, by the way, is it is heresy if you don't believe the whole thing.
Exactly. So it's either a one or a zero, but for people it's like a spectrum. So they would pick and choose some things that are that they sort of agree to. So that
Mhm.
is also based on the morals that they have. So some people would be going because morals. What my opinion is that morals would vary
Mhm.
among people, right? So
Yes.
your morals would dictate how much of it you are buying, and that differs from person to person. So a person with good morals, for example, inherently would stop at a certain point and say, okay, no, this is where it does not go. Like, for example, what I see you guys discussing regarding the abrogation verses, right?
Mhm.
So there is 9:5, and that is basically what the verse is, right? You have to go out and you have to start killing, not in the month of Ramadan, of course, but
No,
other than
because
that,
that would be
yeah,
bad.
that would be bad.
That would
It would
be
be
very
really
bad.
So
inappropriate. It would be really inappropriate to be murdering people in Ramadan. It's any other.
No. Any other month is okay, but
so
not
you have 11 months, right? So it's
plenty of time.
it's plenty of months to actually go and kill people. So you would talk with someone about that, and people with good morals, what they would do is, and that is what a lot of apologetics, I think, are also like they are actually people with good morals, and they are trying to defend something that is indefensible. So what they are doing is that they are saying, no, look at this verse, right? It says you need to talk to them, or you need to that is their religion and this is my religion, and it's their matter whether they do it or not, right?
Mhm.
So they sort of rely on these abrogated verses, and they sort of start quoting them again and again, and people who do
Yeah,
not look into it.
and it only takes, by the way, one shake to correct that mistake.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
only
So
takes one shake to tell his followers that no, the Quran actually says what 9:5 says, and
yeah,
then you have
exactly.
a
so
problem.
so so if someone is open to, for example, I would say it's more on the level of education, and then the sort of exposure you have of the world. So for example, someone sitting in a village in Iraq, if you tell him, like, this is something that we need to do, probably they would buy it, right? So because the exposure of the world is not there, so they would be very openly buying it. But someone living in, for example, Dubai, right? You tell them this verse, and the exposure of the world is there, right? And they have this ease in life that they are not willing to let go. So they would then back out and then quote these verses that are actually very open to the idea of having different viewpoints, and to they would quote things out of context and try to defend their belief. So I think people have this spectrum, and for me that spectrum was not enough. So if you start taking a one or a zero position, it's probably for the people that are exposed to the world, they would probably be leaning more towards zero. And further, my opinion is that people who there are a lot of people who live in closets like me, and they aren't willing to let go just on the they are not practicing, they are not doing anything, but they are just not willing to let this go, that there is no entity that is controlling the universe, that they are afraid that what if these people are right? So they are just taking the easier bet in the scenario, that they are saying that, what if this turns out to be true, right? So so they have no evidence, or they have no backing on their faith, but it's just like it's there, and they have to rely on it, and they have to live this life.
Yeah, you need to reassure them it's okay on the other side. We're fine. We also have the cookies.
Yeah. But the good news is that because the majority of the population will end up in hell anyways, so it's going to be a party.
At least they don't have to pay the heating bill in winter.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad you're here, Murar. I'm sorry about your situation. I don't know what to say about
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So there's
Well,
something.
that makes me more appreciate that you're brave enough to come out and do this, because
Yeah, but I'm still not going to reveal myself completely. So
Yeah,
but
it's not safe. Don't do it. And that's my advice for everybody who is an atheist and who is in the closet. If it's not safe, do not come out. We appreciate your existence. You can contact us. We will help you. We will talk. We will soothe your pain. But do not come out if it's
But I
not
think
safe.
but I think this is the best century to actually, I think, with information, and because you see things like, for example, things like Tabari, right? Because Tabari is something that actually, if you that is the main point that actually drove me away from it, right? If you start reading the tafsir, the Tabari tafsir, right?
Mhm.
So it's full of these things that people have been telling us, that this is not what it means, this is not what it means, this is not what it means, but the Tabari again and again starts quoting that this is what it means, this is what it means. And that is the closest thing to that is the closest thing to actually the origin of the faith, right? So you have nothing before that, and then suddenly you have Tabari with sort of a commentary on what this means.
Yeah.
And then what we have access to now is what we did not have access to 10 or 20 years ago. So Tabari was not probably
The
translated.
information is key to people figuring this out and
Exactly.
figuring out how unreal this is. Um,
Exactly.
and
So
even when somebody is going to level with you and say, okay, this is what it actually means, like a Tabari in this case, for Arabic speaking people, it's just Arabic,
yeah.
right? I mean, even in this chapter, in this surah, it says the Quran is in Arabic, and so that you understand it, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
talk to the Arabic-speaking people. Hey, it's
For
there, so you understand the simple language that this Quran is written in. For you, you have to listen to the Tabari and to the sheikhs that will translate and interpret what Tabari said, because you don't have access to the original language just like
exactly.
Aaron doesn't, and he gets the translation. He does his best work, and I'm going to tell you, he does pretty darn good with the
Yeah,
translation he's
I'm
working
really
with.
impressed. I'm really impressed.
I'm impressed too. Like, I'm going like, okay, fine. I have very little things to add here and there just to add color to the whole thing, but he seldom got it wrong. Like once or twice, there was a couple of really convoluted sentences which the translation didn't do well, and he got it wrong. But that was one or two occasions, and we're like way into halfway through.
Exactly.
So
So and the part about Arabic that you were mentioning in this surah as well. I'm sorry, I'm sort of hogging the conversation here,
no,
but
no, you're welcome.
the
Go
part
run.
about Arabic that you mean. So even in Arabic, right? I was in Saudi, and even people did not understand that Arabic in Saudi. So
yeah, well,
because they say
what?
dialects and
Yeah, but
something.
if you learn the classical Arabic that is taught in schools, if you listen to the for example, the news broadcast in Arabic from Saudi, it is in classical Arabic.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
the other programming on TV might not be, but the newscast for, let's say, in Egypt or in Saudi is in classical Arabic.
Okay.
And that's the language of the Quran, and it hasn't changed, I would say, much at all.
Okay.
In terms,
But then 1 billion people today are non-Arabs, right? So
right,
that
right.
are believing the faith.
It's a fact of life that 80% of Muslims on the planet today do not speak Arabic at all.
Yeah.
So they are completely dependent on the sheikhs' interpretations and the translations that are available to them in their own languages. And if those translations are off, well, you immediately have a problem, right?
Exactly.
Anyways, let's go back to our surah here. 2097.
All right, looking for 97.
Yeah.
All right, that's 99. There we go. Moses said, "Get away from here. Your lot in this life is to say, 'Do not touch me.' But you have an appointment from which there is no escape. Look at your God, which you have kept on worshiping. We shall grind it down and scatter it to the sea."
Yes. They should burn it, then blow it up into the water, and we blow it up like big blowing. The word nesf is what is used when you do dynamite stick stuff today. Like if you want to describe what happened to the Buddha statues in Afghanistan, that was a nesf. That was the same word. If you ask the Afghans what happened to it, it was nesafa, right? So that's the word they use for that kind of action. Morar says that, oh, they grind it down, which close enough, right? I mean, they didn't have dynamite then, so they probably couldn't blow it up. But then you burn it, and then you throw it into the water. We're talking gold here. That's almost irrational to do these things to gold. It won't do anything to gold.
Wouldn't it solidify the moment it hits the sea? Like
it doesn't matter. It's gold. It won't corrode. So it will still be a lump of gold sitting at the bottom of the sea.
Yeah, someone would get rich.
Someone should find this gold. It's right there. It's in the Quran. It must be true. You should go there, do your boat things, and find it.
Now, I don't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. What does the Bible say that they did with that golden calf? Do they say?
I don't remember either.
That is strange. I don't remember that. I'll have to go back and look at that.
No, the calf was forgotten as far as the Bible account is concerned. The the calf happened, the row happened. Moses gone back and got a second set of 10 commandments because he broke the first ones. And there is no mention of the calf again, unless somewhere else. They kind of lost the thread there.
Yep,
that's why I like the Quranic story, because it keeps the thread going until this particular end.
I'm going to have to do a more direct comparison between the Quran and it when I write up a summary on this later, because I intend to take all of these, everything I've written here, and compile it into a book. After taking account of all the corrections that you're giving me in the video lessons and all of the other things other amendments that come from these video hangouts. And I'm going to make a book for, Quranic lessons for the infidel. And I'll have to do a comparison with what Exodus says about this part and what did they do with the calf, because I don't remember them saying anything about that.
About
making it back into earrings or whatever they did.
Oh yeah, no, I don't remember any mention of the calf after that.
I'm just searching it up. It's Exodus 32, I think.
Okay.
That mentions the calf. I think you guys continue, and I'll just get back to you on that.
All right. So,
okay.
What's our next?
So, 2113. Actually, it came up in conversation already. 2113, and so we gave you the Quran in Arabic, and we dispensed a lot of threats to the infidel, so they believe. The Quran. So yeah, the Quran is in Arabic, so it be understood. Like again, this is I think the second time where the Quran says it is in Arabic.
Which completely refutes that other interpretation by Razi and Halim, where they said that the title of this chapter or this surah is supposed to be in Yemeni.
Yeah. Maybe, and I'm not going to say no. Maybe there is a nickname or a call in Yemen slang that looks like that. But I mean, just dig it up in Facebook.
Yep.
You're going to be lists of people with the same name like that. It's like, I didn't make it up. These people are from all over the place.
Are we talking about a name that is just a name, or are we talking about names like, because I know lots of people whose name is initials, like PJ.
No. This is a name. This is a proper name. This
Okay.
is like you get that in your birth certificate. It says that.
So I have friends that are named Ta-Haa.
Yeah, it's not even rare. And it is somewhere along this might be a nickname of Muhammad. Okay, this might well be a nickname of Muhammad, and I'm not sure, but people call Ta-Haa. Ta-Haa is reference when you listen to the zikr stuff, the religious songs, you say as free exchange between Muhammad and Ta-Haa as a name. So it might have been one of his nicknames, or they call him Ta-Haa as a reference to Muhammad. But
and this is something that really people should sort of understand, that Quran actually says that this is a very simple book, right? We have made it plain to you. This is a clear book, right? And this is it is easy to interpret, right? And then you have 1400 years approximately, right? And people are still arguing what this means.
Wow.
Right? And not only like atheists or like non-Muslims. So it's Muslims that are basically arguing what this means. And this is a clear book.
Right. And they fight over it. And they do fight.
Exactly.
I mean, just look at the Shia Sunni divide today. They are fighting about theological differences, and they are, let me tell you, minute.
Yeah. So
armies go up against armies for them.
When do you open your fast? So it's like 10 minutes early or 10 minutes late, right?
So, big deal, man. You can't break your fast early.
So about me as well, one thing that I missed is that in Pakistan, what is very common is that this low-key interpretation of Islam, right? It sort of borrows from the local culture in subcontinent, basically, a lot. So you see parallels between Hinduism and other religions and what the interpretation of Muslims is for their faith here is very similar, right? So some of the rituals are sort of intersecting. So what happened was that around 2005 2006 my family, the whole of my family, converted from this particular interpretation of Islam, and then converted to the strict Saudi version, right? So we started doing the Rafa Adan. So in Pakistan, people don't do Rafa Adan. I don't know if Aaron knows what Rafa Adan is. It's you raise your hands during the God is great part in the prayer. So it's this difference. This is the most major difference, that how you are praying, and there are like minor differences, and people would argue and fight and blow up each other's prayer places just because these differences exist.
Yeah, literally how you start the prayer movements. One sect will do this, and the other sect will just do this, and they literally chase each other out of town for it.
Exactly.
It's
Which is
Yeah.
exactly what you would expect with the unifying message of God to all.
Of course. A message of love and peace.
We have made it clear.
isn't it?
We have made it clear.
Yeah. Anyways, 120. Verse 120.
Give me just a moment to find it. Let's see. 120. But Satan whispered to Adam, saying, Adam, shall I show you the tree of immortality and power that never decays?
It's not a tree of knowledge, Karen. It's immortality and power.
Oh my gosh. Did I not even notice that?
You didn't even notice it. It was like, hi, it's the tree of life. No, not according to the Quran.
You're right. That is a mistake I made. And that's significant too.
That
But
is
But
significant.
actually, I think Aaron's interpretation is sort of correct, because although the words here are tree of life, but then there is a knowledge aspect to it. So
No.
by taking
For
the fruit,
look at the words in the verse. For waswasa, so he whispered. Ilayhi shaitan. Ilayhi is like for Adam. A shaitan is Satan, Iblis. Qala ya Adam. And he said, hey, Adam, shall I show you a tree of khuld? What does khuld even mean? Right?
yeah.
Even you know it.
Do you speak Arabic? Do you?
No, but there are some words that we
He will understand this word.
continuing.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying about this particular verse, right? It's that. But then when you continue the story, sort of, and when you also read the tafsir, it's basically sort of that when it became clear to them, sort of, Adam and Eve, that they are naked and they could see each other. And I think I'm sort of paraphrasing here, but there is a knowledge aspect to it, which we are taught, at least.
There is, but this is also why God in the Bible promised them that they will die if they eat from the tree, and they didn't die, because now he couldn't kill them because it's the tree of eternal life.
Oh, okay.
So he couldn't get to them when they eat from the tree.
Yeah.
I am so confused. So in the Quran, and I don't know if I've already seen this and somehow missed that too, but does Adam eat from the tree of immortality and power?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Just look at the gas prices.
There's not a choice. There's not a choice of trees.
No, it's that one. This is, we're talking about the same tree. In the Bible, it says tree of knowledge. In the Quran, it says immortality and power. Sometime, somewhere between 730 and 2020, this morphed from power to knowledge.
Okay, so one of the things I notice in these interpretations is that Christianity completely forgets, just ignores that there is also the tree of eternal life. So
yes,
since Islam is apparently based on a Christian interpretation, or based on a very early version of Christianity, which also ignored that tree of eternal life, then Islam has just morphed.
It could be.
You said
it
morphed the two trees into one.
I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm not there. I don't know. Right. Okay. What I see in front of me is that this is a tree of eternal life.
Yeah.
Morar says, and I will not contradict him, because eternal life will give you knowledge. Sure enough, you'd have all the time in the world to do all the universities and all the schools, because guess what? You're never dying anymore.
I'm not disagreeing with the translation here or the meaning that is used here, but sort of what I am saying, that the stories that Islam sort of copies is sort of also in the verses themselves. There is a knowledge aspect to it. So I think there is some confusion, because I think probably because Varaka is no longer there, he is no longer alive to basically tell the Prophet.
Tell us what he
story-
told Muhammad.
Yeah.
He's
So-
talking about Waraq ibn Nawfal,
Yeah.
the
So
Christian scholar that has contact and relations with Muhammad. I mentioned him early on. He's a Bible scholar at the 7th century, and
Yeah,
he lived near Mecca.
yeah, and this is something that this would be a segue to what actually Aaron I emailed you about, right? So the continuity, what you see in the continuity, when you look at the continuity or you look at the chronological order of the book, right? So if you start, it's basically a very generalized message, right? So it's talking about monotheism, it's talking about what's good about monotheism, and this is the truth. And then it sort of starts getting desperate by the 12th surah in the chronological orders, right? So the messages sort of start getting desperate, that don't be sad, don't be depressed, and sort of in Al Kafirun, it sort of, and also the surahs that start coming after Inshara, it's like smaller surahs, like 3 verses, 5 verses, 6 verses, 7 verses, right? And you look at all these surahs up until Surah Ikhlas, right? There is no mention of the word Allah. It's Rabb. That is the main word that is used in all these surahs. Now I might be mistaken, but that's how I read the chronological order, right? And if there is some mention of Allah, it's very rare. And then Surah Ikhlas hits. That's 112, right? And 112 like bombards the word Allah, because that is also sort of the name that is used by the people of Makkah for their major god. Like they have other gods as well, but this is the god that is the mighty god for the Makkan people as well. And so in Surah Ikhlas, that is the verse that is sort of the discussion that is there. And then in Surah Najm, that comes after Ikhlas, there is also mention of the 3 other goddesses, and that is the whole controversy about the satanic verses, right? And then
Yeah.
Tabari actually explains that this is the time that the prophet was actually very desperate, and he was just trying for something to click with the people of Makkah. And this is something that clicked with the people of Makkah, like, oh, you're talking about our gods, that you are not talking about the Christian god or the Jewish god.
Or
You are
just a
talking
generic god, right?
just a generic god. Yeah,
Right.
you're talking about our god. And then from this point onwards, the word Allah is used again and again and again and again. But then to sort of not go back on what he was saying, he uses these stories by of the Christians and of the Jews to sort of also keep them in the circle that, no, wait, look, this is the same God, right? So don't be judgmental, or don't be sort of right. Don't leave the message that I am spreading just because you think I'm with these polytheists. I'm also talking about your God, and I have stories about your God as well. So that is the interpretation that I get, at least, that until Surah Ikhlas, it's like everything is just generic God, and then suddenly in Ikhlas it turns to Allah, and then you have all these sort of this borrowing of stories from everywhere, so that you can sort of touch everyone, and it's sort of opportunistic. What I think it is.
Very interesting take. I like it.
Yeah, I'm glad that we've got you on here, because I mean, much as I appreciate and need Bogey to be involved in this, when it's just he and I, show after show, I don't think that we have the energy or certainly the fresh input of getting another person. And I'm just fascinated listening to you and Bogey go back and forth. This is good.
Yeah, there is certainly a chronological progression in how Allah, Islam, Muhammad treats other religions and how he tries to relate to them and tries to grab them to his side. And we've seen that already, not once, not twice, probably 3 or 4 times with Christianity. Remember Maryam, the Mary chapter? That's basically, hey, Christians, we're friends here, right?
So what Tabari says about this Al-Najm, especially in this time period. So the mention of the name Allah and then the three goddesses that they revered in Medina, that in Makkah, that basically sort of brought all the polytheists. It generated curiosity, right? And there is a story that all of them sort of embraced Islam there and then, because they thought that this guy is talking about our gods, right?
Yeah.
And then Muhammad sort of had to go
Then
back on his words,
bad
because
bad things happened after that.
yeah, he had to go, because the story Tabari tells is that when this verse was sort of read out during a prayer, not only did Muhammad sort of go into sajda, but the whole of Makkah went into sajda with him, the people that were listening. So the Jews were there, the Makkans were there, the polytheists basically, and all of them went down together. And then sort of the people that were exiled at that point in time by the Makkans, they came back to Makkah to find out that Muhammad had said this, and then he had to go back on it because he had to keep sort of a continuity in his monotheistic ventures.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that's. Can we go to the next one?
Yep. Sorry. I divulged.
No, that's fine. That's a good take, though. 130.
130. All right. So we are. Let's see. Okay, just a minute. I just skipped it. All right, 130. So, prophet, be patient with what they say. Celebrate the praise of your Lord before the rising and setting of the sun. Celebrate his praise during the night and at the beginning and the end of day, so that you may find contentment.
Yes. This is the abrogated verse, but only the first part is abrogated, right?
Well,
So
that.
yeah, so the first 3 words are abrogated, which is be patient about what they say, about what the unbelievers say, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that's actually abrogated. The rest of it is stands. And here's the funny part that it stands for. 5 surahs chronologically from this one, 5 surahs only from this one. Muhammad takes a journey. He flies first class from Mecca to Jerusalem and then straight up to heaven to meet up with God and haggle the number of prayers with them. Because that's the reason why he went up there. And this verse actually preempts all of that. He did not need to travel. It's already said here. You're going to pray before sunrise, before sunset, and near the end of the night, and the edges of the day, which basically defines the 5 prayers, the 5 prayers in Islam. So the entire surah where he travels and haggles about it is kind of superfluous because he's already defined it here.
Okay.
But for the fun point, this is about prayer. And we talked about prayer 2 or 3 times before it came up chronologically. And this is the time where Allah actually says, okay, this is the times you have to pray. And we're going to see how it goes from here.
What is the value of prayer?
If you don't pray, you don't go to heaven. Period.
So that's the first question. What's taught to us is that that's the first question that will be asked of you in your grave. So you are going to sit up in your grave. Sorry to the people who are cremated, but in the grave you are going to sit up, and then then you are going to answer it whether you said your prayers or not. So these 5 prayers, and it's basically that there is this prayer on Fridays that if you miss it 3 times in a row because of any reason, you are an apostate there and then,
It's
and
just, yeah, you're done.
you have to come back to Islam, and you have to read the Shahada again.
Again. And be very happy that somebody didn't get too carried away with the sword.
You have
Yeah.
to do what again?
Be very happy that somebody didn't get carried away with the sword.
You have to come back to Islam and you have to do the something in Arabic again.
Yeah, the Shahada.
What's that?
You have
You
to
have-
do the testimony that you attest that Allah is Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger.
Okay.
You cannot become a Muslim unless you do that.
Okay.
So that's the Shahada. You have to do the Shahada. You have to say, I believe that Allah is Allah and Muhammad is his messenger, and whatever else you need to attest to. But I think that's about it.
Gotcha.
If you are Shiite, you have to say, and Ali is his whatever close relative or whatever. But yeah, that's what you have to do. You basically, if you stop praying for a period of time, you automatically leave the circle of what a Muslim is. And if somebody watches you and finds out that you did not pray, he can report you, and he can act on his own and not report you.
Like in Saudi, what used to happen was that during, for example, Maghrib prayers, right? This is
Yeah.
the evening prayer when the sun is setting. And if you are outside and you are, for example, male and you are outside, the religious police would come and they would start, forcibly taking you to the masjid so that you pray.
Because you can't be outside and not praying.
Yeah.
They can't check you inside your home because you'll be left alone at your home, but you're supposed to be praying at prayer time. But if you're outside and the prayer azan is happening, why aren't you praying?
Exactly.
Like the question immediately comes up.
So there's nobody lives in Saudi Arabia that is not Muslim.
Praying. No. There are plenty of atheists in Saudi Arabia.
But
They
in
just
closets,
go and pray.
right?
They just go and pray.
No, I mean there's nobody that is openly not Muslim living in
Oh,
Saudi Arabia.
they are, but they
There
vanish.
are. Now,
They vanish.
if you go to Saudi Arabia and your passport says you're a Christian, then you're not required to pray. Right?
Okay.
If you're a foreigner and your passport says you're a foreigner, they won't ask you.
Okay.
Right? But if you look like you're a Saudi and you don't have your passport on you and you're not in the mosque when the prayer is on, you're in trouble. That's a ticket. And it's a peddling.
Gotcha. Do we have any more? We've got 5 verses left.
Yeah, 132 actually instantiates the prayer order for Muslims. 131 and 133.
So 131 and 132.
No, just 132.
132.
Yes.
Order your people to pray and pray steadfastly yourself. We are asking you to give us provision. We provide for you, and the rewards of the hereafter belong to the devout.
Yeah. So 130 already described when the prayer happens, and 132 actually instantiates the prayer, and now it is upon Muslims to pray. Now, there will be more of this, but this is the first time it happened chronologically. Before that, we had prayer, amorph, nondescript, right? It would just say, hey, you Muslims, you should pray to God anyway, anytime you want, right? Here, it actually told the times of the day when you should be praying, and in 132 actually says, now the prayer is upon you. Now, later on, it says, no, the prayer is mandatory upon you, and we will find that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my understanding from this is that previously, like what we see, at least what I see culturally, in for Christians, prayer is like something you say, right? It's not an act. right? You are not doing specific things in the prayer. So previously for Islam as well, before this, actually, you would see that people would be just following that, and they were just saying things from the scripture, and that was the prayer. And it's sort of, for the what my understanding is, that Zoroastrians at that time and the polytheists of Makkah as well, they were doing these rituals. And so for them to better associate with the religion, it was important to have a ritualistic prayer as well.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like early days and before these verses, obviously, Muslims were instructed to pray, but they weren't instructed to how to pray and what to do for a prayer, right? We're going to see some of these instructions here. We're going to see that people actually emulated what Muhammad did. That's why a lot of what happens in the prayer is actually from hadith and not from the Quran. And this comes up every now and then when they say, well, the prayer, the Shiites are praying wrong. How come they get it wrong if it's in the Quran? Well, they don't, because it's not in the Quran. Right? Most of what you do during prayer is actually from Sirah and from hadith.
Yeah.
I got a question about the Zoroastrians too. You mentioned that the significance of the influence of Zoroastrians, that they were there and they're doing this prayer and it's different. So we have to, comparing us to them, we have to do this. My understanding was that there are Zoroastrians in Saudi. Is that not correct?
Yes. So they were, the Sassanid Empire was actually Zoroastrian, right? So the Sassanid Empire was right at it was bordering these tribes. So they were trading with the Sassanid Empire and the Byzantine Empire as well at that time. So they knew what they were doing, and they had an exchange. And so I think culturally there was an exchange at that time as well.
Yeah,
So you would
geographically, they were connected. They knew about them at
Okay.
the time with the Sassanid Empire. So they knew about what the Zoroastrian did for prayer.
So I just wanted to understand the culture. I mean, if Zoroastrians are in Saudi, they're open about being.
No, not today. Not today, Saudi. This is at the time the Sassanid Empire existed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where Iran is today. That's where
I
Iran.
read somewhere that Zoroastrians were one of the few other religions
Yes.
that still got any respect from the Saudis. I don't know if
no, it doesn't. And just to remember that when the helicopters were rescuing the Zoroastrians from the top of the mountains a couple of years ago, and they managed to get like 50 of them off, ISIS was going to kill them because they're not properly Muslim.
Gotcha.
And they were going to kill them, and they were going to enslave the women, and many women end up as slaves in ISIS's hands, and they're just being freed, and we just get the horror stories out of the tap. It's just ridiculous. They don't like Zoroastrians now. Back in those days when these verses were written, the Muslims of Mecca were aware of the Zoroastrians, just like the pagans of Mecca were aware of the Zoroastrians. They had trade relations with them, with the Sassanid Empire, with the Roman Empire, and with the Ethiopian Christian Empire at the time, by the way. So that was the business of Muhammad. That's what he did for business. So they had this cultural and commercial contact with these empires. So they knew what they were doing for prayer. They knew what they worshipped, right? So they were aware of what these people worshipped. They didn't worship what those people worshipped, but they could emulate the worshiping practice and use Quranic verses in their own worship. So a lot of Muslims were doing these things, but it wasn't Islamic prayer that like we can recognize today.
Okay.
The Sassanid Empire existed at what Iran is today, mostly.
Yeah, and then you have some in the subcontinent as well, because they flee Iran when the Muslim conquest was happening. So the Muslims actually persecuted them in Iran, and then they drove them out to subcontinent. So they actually took refuge in subcontinent, and then the Muslims came to the subcontinent as well. So they, they had bad luck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but what you see, what I think Bogi is saying here is that if you see the Zoroastrian prayer, right, it's very similar to the rituals that the Islamic prayer is. Not in what they are saying, there are some differences, but you see the evolution of the prayer, the Zoroastrian prayer, it's very similar. They are bowing down, and the sajda that the Muslims do, the Zoroastrians also sort of did something like that. They had another step to it, that like they lay down on the floor as well. The Muslims don't do that, but if you see a lot of the positions that today's Islamic prayer has, it borrows a lot from that. I don't know if it's a coincidence. Muslims will say, well, Zoroastrians were Muslims too at one point. So they have a defense, right? So everything.
Zoroastrianism predates Islam. In fact, it probably predates a whole lot of religions that we know about today.
Yeah, but for like what we are taught, whenever this discussion comes up, like this is borrowed, this is borrowed, this is borrowed. So the go-to answer would be that it's not borrowed, it was Islam, and then they changed it. So this was Islam. There was a prophet out of the 125,000. It
Oh, yeah,
came
those, yeah.
the prophet came to that place. He said the message of Allah, but then they changed it. So they
No
become.
wonder everybody is confused about it if you had 120,000 prophets.
Yeah. So and
I mean,
all of
that if you want confusion, that's how you do it.
exactly. Your mic is muted, Aaron.
Yeah, I was going to say that there was no record of these 120,000 prophets teaching Islam. They're teaching other religions.
No, they're teaching everything else, right? This is the confusion engine.
All right. So we going to cover anything else? Or are we done for today?
I think we're done.
All right. Well, Morar, thank you for joining us. You are welcome to join us again. Next time we do this, it'll probably be a couple of weeks from now.
It's a pleasure, guys.
I'm sorry. What was that? What was that?
It's a pleasure to have been here, and if I'm free at that time, I will be willing to join. So yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you're on lockdown. Is Pakistan on lockdown like everywhere else?
It's sort of a lockdown, so it's like on and off.
Okay.
So it's like in parentheses you find these verses, and you find the parentheses translations in the Quran. So it's like parentheses lockdown.
Maybe according to Tabari.
Yeah, but not Ibn Kathir.
No, Ibn Kathir he's all over the place.
Hopefully not next Sunday, but I'm expecting the Sunday after that. We can try that again. And I'm expecting that most people will still be available at home at that time.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for joining us. Please join us again as long as it's safe for you to do so, and stay healthy and all that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to close it up. Thank you guys very, very much.
Bye.
You're welcome.